Good morning, everyone, and thank you for tuning in to another live edition of Wealth Building Wednesday brought to you by TRHT Selma. TRHT stands for Truth, Racial Healing, and Transformation. We are an initiative comprised of two nonprofit organizations based here in the historic city of Selma, Alabama, the Black Belt Community Foundation and the Selma Center for Nonviolence. Together, we are TRHT Selma. We are funded by the W.K. Kellogg Foundation, and we are indeed proud to come to you live every single Wednesday, live on Facebook and YouTube at 10 o'clock a.m. Central Standard Time. And my name is Lydia Chapman. I'm delighted to serve as co-director for TRHT Selma and excited to have part two, of Miss Sandy Hesley. Good morning, Miss Hesley.
Good morning.
It is great to have you here for part two, y'all. We moved some things around to make this happen because last week we were engaged in a really great conversation about business credit. So if you are a small business owner, if you are someone if you're interested at all remotely in becoming a small business owner, if entrepreneurship is something that you are attracted to and you want to know the ins and outs of business credit, listen, tell a friend to tell a friend, tag and share, because this is going to be part two of a conversation about business credit. Now, credit is a dirty word for some people. Listen. Especially when we're talking about our personal credit, but we're going to talk about not just personal credit, but business credit today. This is a part of a series dedicated to entrepreneurship and small business ownership. So again, if you want to learn more about business credit, make sure, or if you know a small business owner who needs to know or wants to know more about small business credit, please make sure you tag them. If you have questions along the way as you hear the conversation unfold, please always know that you can post it in the comments. So I do want to welcome back Miss Sandy Hesley. She is not a brand new face, but she started with us last week talking about business credit. And when we talked last week, we talked about the differences between our personal and our business credit, as well as the similarities. So there are some differences and there are some similarities. So if we could kind of just talk about really quickly some of the things, the highlights of the things that we talked about last week in regards to the similarities and the differences between our personal and our business credit.
Well, I mean, they pretty much work a lot the same. Okay. You're going to handle them a lot the same. You're going to handle them carefully. You're going to guard them both. So those are the similarities. The differences that we discussed is like, for one, you look at where you pull your credit from: personal, Equifax, Experian, TransUnion. And then we talked about how with the business credit, you're going to pull your credit file from Dun and Bradstreet, Equifax, and then I discovered in some research that Experian has a small business side as well. Mm-hmm. So those are kind of like the differences between the two. But for me, I would say maintain the same attitude about both of them. Both are extremely important in order for you to progress, in order for you to move forward. With personal credit, you want to buy a house, you want to buy a car, you want to, have things that you want to do, you need good credit. With small business, you want your business to grow, you want to expand, you need to make sure that you guard your credit. So those are the main things that I would really look at with regards to, small business credit or business credit versus personal credit.
Okay. So now when it comes to our personal credit, how important is our personal credit if we are looking to establish good business credit? Does it matter at all? Does our personal credit matter?
It does in a sense, because when you start out with your small business, your credit or even the business is basically an extension of you.
Okay.
So, it's important that you have good, solid, stable credit personally, because when you're starting out trying to, build your business, trying to build, get things, maybe lease, an office building, or something like that, because you're starting out, they're gonna fall back heavily on your personal credit. Where and brought the word up last week about how you would have to basically guarantee that particular item, debt or what have you. So that is why sometimes it's important that you do have solid credit on the personal side, because starting out, you're really going to have to fall back on you,
Okay.
the owner, in order to get established from small business side.
And so I do want to just encourage those. Again, Sandy Hesley is not a new face. She has been with us many times and talked about credit. She is a certified credit counselor with Lifelines Counseling. It is super important that you reach out to her if you have any questions, because 'tis the season, listen, for
Yeah,
folks to start saying, hey, we can revamp your credit, pay me
yeah,
to charge your credit, whatever.
yeah,
Um, you can get that done for free, y'all. And it's also about work, right?
yeah.
So at Lifelines, they're not just going to help you improve your personal and to help you walk through the steps to establish business credit, but they'll also help you get that spending plan, not budget, but spending plan in
Mhm.
place so that you can establish and maintain. Because see, you can get a 830, right, as your credit score, and then destroy it with the same
Yeah,
habits that
yeah,
caused it to be a
exactly.
520.
Exactly.
So we are talking today with Ms. Hesley, particularly about business credit, and wanted to continue that conversation by asking what kind of information is actually found on a business credit profile.
Okay. When you look at business credit,
Mm-hmm.
what you're looking at is, um, the general information about like your business, your address, the industry that you're involved in. It may even have the number of employees that you have, how
Okay.
long you've been in business, your size. Um, your information about your business credit relationships with suppliers, your payment history, if you have any with like your business loans or business credit cards. Those are the type of things that will be on your business credit profile. And I'm a read a definition, because sometimes we assume stuff, but I want to
Mm-hmm.
make sure we understand a business credit profile is the face that that the company presents to lenders, suppliers, insurance companies, lessors, and other businesses when they decide whether to extend credit or do business with that company. So that's what we need to keep in mind when you're thinking about a business profile. Is it's going to be used to set terms on credit, credit loans, leases, insurance premiums, all of that. And see, that flows right with, that's the same way with
Personal.
personal
Mm-hmm.
credit. When you need insurance, they pull your credit. You know what I'm saying? You
Mm-hmm.
apply for a credit card or loan, they pull your credit. So the same thing that holds true for the personal side pretty much holds true for the business side as well. So that's why they're pretty much one and the same, except again, one is for your personal and one pertains to your business. But you look at them, they pretty much call for the same things.
And see, now that's important to know for several reasons. And so in the process of learning more, I'm actually going through some coursework myself to learn more about credit so that folks who need the help can get it, and we can put the information where the goats can get it. Everybody can
Yeah.
understand we're not using all these lofty terms, right? And
Mm-hmm.
talking to people, so that people can actually get the help they need as opposed to being charged for services
Yeah.
they may not, right?
Mm-hmm.
And again, at Lifelines Counseling, they can assist you. There is no cost to the advice that Ms. Hesley offers. So don't be, I'm not going to say swindled, but don't be sucked into the idea that you have to have someone paid to get the same information. Because please understand, Lifelines Counseling is here. There are organizations like SCORE, which is a host of business professionals who are retired and willing to offer their expertise. That information is free. They're not charging you thousands of dollars for their advice, right? So
Mm-hmm.
we want to make sure that people who need the information have access to it and can afford. And who can't afford free, y'all? Okay.
Yeah.
So now want to ask you about because we did have this question come in from one of our viewers, and we do want to just say good morning and thank you for tuning in to Keith Jones, to Veronica Drake, to Tiffany Smith. Y'all, please make sure that you are tagging and sharing this information. It's very important that we have change the dynamics of our conversations.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, Miss Parker, thank you for tuning in. We want to make sure that people are accessing and listen. We start to change our conversations. We're not talking about what sister so and so had on, but like let's work with all of us. Let's sister girls in the church sit down and let's talk about how we can get all of us to have good credit,
Yeah.
right? So that's a part of what we're doing here with Wealth Building Wednesday. And we had a question last week. How can small business owners purchase cars with business credit? Is that something that you recommend? I've heard a lot of folks talking about it. I'd love to hear your feedback on that.
Well, I mean, if it's necessary for your business, then by all means,
Okay.
but it's going to be the same process, filling out a credit application and applying for it.
Okay.
Again, if you hadn't had established credit for that business,
Mm-hmm.
then they're going to fall back on your personal credit. But you can still get it in the business name. You're just going to be the guarantor. And that's another way to help build credit for that business. But if it's necessary, if it's something that you need, you started a delivery service,
Mm-hmm.
then you're going to need a delivery car, a delivery truck. So yeah, if you want to go out and purchase one, then yeah, but it just depends on what stage you are in your business, whether you have established business credit. If not, that is when it falls back on you,
What,
the personal side.
what about purchasing versus leasing for a business? Which one do you think would be the most ideal?
See, that question, that's a good question. And that's
Mhm.
one that I um, really can't answer from a business side because I really hadn't had that to come up. I
Okay.
mean, I just really think that it depends on the business. I would think that if your business entails doing a lot of traveling, I wouldn't think that leasing would be the way to go.
Okay.
I really wouldn't. And I'm looking at it from a personal side because when you lease, you have to look at the terms of the lease, the mileage,
Right.
wear and tear on the car, all of that, which could eventually come back on you. So are you really going to come out ahead with that at the end of the lease, or would you do better to just purchase, buy the car and pay it off and then not have to worry about a note? Because once you get out of that lease, that means you got to pick up another,
Right.
or pick up another note or what have you. So I hadn't had that to come up, but just from my personal experience, looking at it from a personal side, it just all depends on what you're using that vehicle for and how much you're using it, which determines whether or not you would need to lease versus buy.
Okay. Great information. What about the impact that how we are structured as a business? Now, I know that term business structure has come up a lot over the past year and a half as PPP loans rolled out.
Mhm.
And people took advantage of those opportunities to bolster their business. The president announced last night in the State of the Union that the Department of Justice will actually have a chief prosecutor when it comes to prosecuting those companies or those people who have wrongfully received PPP loans, but we want to find out how our business structure, what that is, and how it impacts business credit, or does it impact business credit at all?
It does. And like when we spoke last week,
Mm-hmm.
one of the things that I said is that when you're establishing your business, you need to establish a business structure. You need to
Yeah.
structure your business. How do you want your business to operate? I mentioned sole proprietorship. Sole proprietorships are the least complicated. You can
Mm-hmm.
do a Sandy Hesley DBA doing business as Sandy's Cakes, something like that. It's the least complicated, but the business and the individual pretty much one and the same.
Mm-hmm.
And you the owner is solely responsible for any debts or anything like that are incurred by the business. My thing is, if you're establishing a small business, it's really best to separate yourself from that business, in that you are trying from a legal standpoint, because legal liability is what I'm thinking about.
Okay.
So, you look at sole proprietorships, you look at LLCs, limited liability companies,
Mm-hmm.
you look at corporations, you look at S corp, and incorporating it creates a totally different business entity in and of itself, and it offers the opportunity, of course, for you to build credit, and it gives you some it separates you from a legal standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Legal liability is what I'm saying. Limited liability companies, that's where you could have like partners, you could have managing partners, things of that nature. And you are protected from personal liability. Your personal liability is protected against the business debt. So that's why it's really important for you to really establish a business structure and keep everything separate. You don't want things to commingle,
Okay.
because when it comes to legal responsibility, you want it to fall on the business and not on you, because you're established, you got a house, you got a car, you got a family. You don't want that to suffer because of something that happens from with your business.
And y'all, this is great information. It is also connected to a prior conversation we had in 2021 related to bankruptcy, which we'll wrap back around to bankruptcies at some point this year. But that what you were just saying reminded me of the different types of bankruptcy, and how you can file a business bankruptcy, which we've seen people do. We've seen
Yeah.
that in the news. Our
Mhm.
former president used to file bankruptcy all the time.
All the time.
So making sure that we are separating our personal business, of our stuff,
Mhm.
from the business, right,
Mhm.
is important. We have a question from our audience. We have someone that wants to know. She said she's been told that when making a purchase or applying for a loan or credit for your business, it's best to freeze your personal credit. Is that a good idea?
I mean, it's really not necessary, because again, if you're separating the two,
Right.
why inconvenience yourself by freezing, what I'm saying, your personal credit? So if you're separating the two, then I wouldn't see why it would really be necessary for you to do that.
And I actually, like I said, I'm going through some coursework, and I actually heard someone ask this a very similar question. And a part of the reason why that person was interested in freezing the credit was connected to a low personal credit score. One of their clients had a very low credit score, and they were trying to figure out if freezing the credit would be a better way for them to approach establishing business credit. And it was really interesting to hear the responses of these experts on the line, because they said, well, let's work on the personal credit first.
And see, that goes back again. To me, a lot of it is going to circle back to the business structure.
Okay.
Because, like, when you have a partnership, and I didn't even mention that, partnerships, LLCs, corporations, S corps, sole proprietorships.
Mm-hmm.
It makes a difference with regards to your credit. Now, if you have a partnership,
Right.
then the partners are going to be responsible for that debt. But if you have one partner that has low credit and you have one that has high credit, of course the one with the higher credit score is going to take the bulk of it, because the one with the low credit is not going to be able to do anything. So my point is, to me, it all goes back to how your business is structured. And if you're looking at a partnership, then you might want to put a freeze on it because you don't want it to bleed over into the
Okay.
business side. You understand what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
But if the business is set up properly, if it's separate from the personal, it really wouldn't be a reason as far as I know, for with as much information that I know about the two, it wouldn't be a reason why you should. Now there might be experts out there that can say, well, you should, and this is why, and it's probably completely legit, but it just depends on the purpose, what it is you're doing, and the structure of the business.
Okay. Awesome information, y'all. Don't forget that if you have questions, please feel free to drop them in the chat. We do want to thank everyone for tuning in. Again, tag and share. This is valuable information. So if you are a small business owner or you know someone who is a small business owner, make sure that they have access to this information and the free expertise of Sandy Hesley and her colleagues at Lifelines Counseling. They have a very unique model to counseling. So whether you have a young person in your house who needs to talk about being bullied at school and you want to come in and talk about improving your personal credit, all of those services are available at Lifelines Counseling. Miss Sandy Hesley is a certified credit counselor. Okay. And the services are free. Listen, it does not cost you thousands of dollars to correct the path of your credit.
And Lydia, let me throw something else in there too. Mm-hmm. Because when you're looking at establishing a small business, mm-hmm. make sure you do your research and make sure that you are prepared to do the work, because yes. It's work. And especially, and it really is, an extension of you. Take pride in what you do. It's a reflection of you as well. So if it's something that you want to do, that's cool. But just make sure that you do the research and that you're prepared to do the work, because it's work. But in the end, you'll look back on it and you'll think, man, that was a lot of work, but I'm so glad that I did it. Everything turned out beautifully. You're going to have bumps in the road, don't get me wrong, but take the time to do the research and be prepared to do the work. Because it is work.
Absolutely. It's not a quick fix. Listen, and you will value it more.
Yeah.
You may value being able to pay somebody to do things to kind of fix and erase things off of your credit. But if you work yourself and make sure that you're walking through that process, you will value and protect that 800 credit score far more than if you got it within, 5 months of somebody, repeatedly sending off letters and things like that. If you do it yourself, you value it more. Right. So now wanted to ask if there are any preferred vendors or any types of accounts. If we are a startup, if there are some preferred vendors you think, or types of accounts like Net 30 accounts, comparing who vendors report to, Dun and Bradstreet versus Experian, like, are there preferred vendors or types of accounts that you would recommend?
Well, for one, you want to go with a vendor. Again, ask questions, do your research with your vendors. Make sure that they report to the Small Business Credit Bureau. Some of them may not. And you're trying to establish credit, so it's important that they do. So you want to do your research. And I wouldn't say one is any better than the other. It's just a matter of you asking questions and doing the research. Okay. That is how you're going to find out whether or not this vendor is worthwhile versus this one. And then with the Net 30 account, it's like it's one way that they extend you like 30 days to pay a bill in full. But what I found out is some vendors may do Net 15. They may just give you 15 days to pay it in full. Some
Okay.
of them will do net 60, where they give
Mm-hmm.
you 60 days. So see, it just depends. 60 or even 90 days, you'll just have to do your research to see if that vendor is beneficial to your business,
Okay.
and if that vendor is going to be helpful in helping you establish credit. And when you get with them, you're agreeing to whatever terms that they're offering you. And so you just make sure that you are prepared to agree to those terms. So it's just a matter of making sure you do your research and making sure that you're reading the fine print.
Awesome. Listen, that fine print is real. And we have to make sure that like you said, ask questions
Mm-hmm.
and do the research. Now,
Mm-hmm.
I want to, before we wrap up, talk about programs like there's this thing called Self that
Mm-hmm.
people can pay into in order to improve their own personal credit.
Mm-hmm.
Um, are these type programs an option, you think, a viable option for people trying to establish business credit?
Well, what I did was I did some research on Self,
Okay.
and it's legit.
Hmm.
And what I found out is that the company is based out of Austin, Texas,
Okay.
and that and they have actually partnered with some real FDIC insured banks to help manage, the accounts that they have. And basically what Self is what we call, or what I call in banking, credit builders. They offer credit building loans. And basically what a credit builder loan does, it holds the amount borrowed in a bank account while you make payments.
Okay.
And that's building your credit. And it's designed to help people who have little or no credit history to help build credit. So you look at options like Self, and then it was another one I can't think of the name of. And then also I found out Chime is
Okay.
considered something
Hmm.
along those lines. But Chime leans more to personal. I couldn't find anything on Chime about helping build small business or business. But those are like in the same wheelhouse. So basically, you're looking at a credit builder, and sometimes that's what we need. But again, you have to make sure that you're dealing with a legitimate company, and Self is legit.
Okay. And I wanted to ask about that because so often, and we were talking about this a bit before we went live, we perish for the lack of knowledge.
Yeah.
We see things on social media. We see these ads for folks that are talking about, the millions they've made and you need to take my advice, which many of them and most of them, in fact, are more than likely legit, I would say. But we just have to be able to do our own research and know whether this stuff is real. I also wanted to ask in regards to Self and programs like that, because if once we're starting to do our research and we establish that credit, again, like you said, it's important to do the work, right? Those type of programs allow us to do the work. They allow us to start paying those bills on time
Mm-hmm.
and practicing good habits.
Mm-hmm.
Y'all,
Which is
it's
extremely
yes.
important. And see, my thing is, a lot of times I get it all the time. My cousin said that all she had to do was this, and this. My cousin was able to do this. Is your cousin telling you the whole story?
Right.
Your situation might be slightly different from your cousin's situation. So the same thing is not going to hold true. So you have to see for yourself. You know what I'm saying? And like you said, a lot of those people that built this wealth and did all this stuff, yeah, it may be legit, but you still got a handful that it's not
Mm-hmm.
legit.
And there are, and this is the season of entrepreneurship. It's a part of the reason why we wanted to make sure that in the beginning of the year, Wealth Building Wednesday focused on small business owners and entrepreneurship as a viable option. We hear
Mm-hmm.
in the national news this thing called the Great Resignation, right? And folks are not going back to the traditional
Yeah.
workplace. New businesses started faster than ever before. And we're excited to see that movement because having your own business, investing in real estate, these are all things that people do when they want to build wealth. And so we want to make sure that we share the information, that we share the facts and the experts that people need to have access to in and around Selma and across the Black Belt. And we know, yes, Facebook, YouTube goes all over the place, but we want to make sure that our homegrown folks, right, are able to access people right in their own backyard who can help them be as successful as possible. So, Ms. Hesley, I want to thank you for your time again today as we have wrapped up part one was last week. This has been part two, talking about business credit. Ms. Hesley will be back. She is a regular guest on Wealth Building Wednesday, and we're always excited to have her here. So thank you.
Thank you. I look forward to this. I enjoyed every single time.
Oh, that's so wonderful. And the audience loves you. So we are super, super, super
Thank you.
excited to have you be such a valuable asset in our community. So if you have been tuning in and listening, y'all make sure that you're tagging and sharing. Listen, we have a viewer saying part 3, look out, look. Yes, Ms. Hesley will definitely be back. And she has expertise in a large number of areas. If you did not catch her when we talked about bankruptcies, all of these videos are available on the Black Belt Community Foundation as well as the Selma Center for Nonviolence page. So take your time, listen to it as you're riding in the car. We do have the audio available. It is rebroadcast at 1:30 Central Standard Time on WBFZ 105.3. We are excited. We are enjoying ourselves as we are talking about building wealth, y'all. Let's change. Let's transform. Truth, racial healing, and transformation. Let's transform our community by changing what we're talking about and being about our business. Okay. So until next Wednesday, y'all, let's get to building this wealth. See you next Wednesday.
Have a good one, y'all.